So you see here it says sharecropping families work land owned by somebody else. The landowner gets credit for seed, tools, housing, etc., and receives a share of the crop less the expenses of the sharecropper. So it gives you a little more information here too. And then I also wanted to pause because this is kind of sounding like we're answering question number 2 now. So it's saying, why is the land so important to the Logan family? So maybe I'll keep a lookout for that information, and then if we find anything, let's think of a different color to highlight it with. Maybe we could try this like light purple. Okay, so if we see anything, we'll be on the lookout. As you can see right now, we're on past page 2, past page 3. We read page 4 already, and now we're on page 5. Once our land had been Granger land too, but the Grangers had sold it during Reconstruction to a Yankee for tax money. In 1887, when the land was up for sale again, Grandpa had bought 200 acres of it, and in 1918, after the first 200 acres had been paid off, he had bought another 200. It was good, rich land, much of it still virgin forest, and there was no debt on half of it. But there was a mortgage on the 200 acres bought in 1918, and there were taxes on the full 400, and for the past 3 years, there had not been enough money from the cotton to pay both and live on too. Okay, that part's really important. So it's basically telling us that her grandpa first bought 200 acres. He was able to pay for those 200 acres, so then he bought another 200 acres, and they still owe that half, those 200 acres. So, and here in the end it says that there had not been enough money from the cotton to pay both and live on too. So it looks like they still struggle for money a little bit. That was why Papa had gone to work on the railroad. In 1930, the price of cotton dropped, and so in the spring of 1931, Papa set out looking for work, going as far north as Memphis and as far south as the Delta country. He had gone west too into Louisiana. It was there he found work laying track for the railroad. He worked the remainder of the year away from us, not returning until the deep winter when the ground was cold and barren. And then don't forget, it tells us the footnote about when the Reconstruction was. So it's the period after the American Civil War, during which the states had seceded and were reorganized and reestablished. So it tells us a little bit more about the setting and the time that our characters are living in. The spring after the planting was finished, he did the same. Now it was 1933, and Papa was again in Louisiana laying track. I asked him once why he had to go away, why the land was so important. He took my hand and said in his quiet way, "Look out there, Cassie girl. All that belongs to you. You ain't never had to live on nobody's place but your own. And long as I live and the family survives, you'll never have to. That's important. You may not understand that now, but one day you will. Then you'll see." Okay. This part looks like it's answering question number 2, and it's really describing why he finds the land so important, which in our days is kind of like owning a home, right? So it's not very easy to own a home, and that's a easy similarity. I looked at Papa strangely when he said that, for I knew that all the land did not belong to me. Some of it belonged to Stacy, Christopher John, and Little Man, not to mention the part that belonged to Big Ma, Mama, and Uncle Hammer, Papa's older brother, who lived in Chicago. But Papa never divided the land in his mind. It was simply Logan land. For it, he would work the long, hot summer pounding steel. Mama would teach and run the farm. Big Ma, in her 60s, would work like a woman of 20 in the fields and keep the house, and the boys and I would wear threadbare clothing washed to dishwater color, but always the taxes and the mortgage would be paid. Papa said that one day I would understand. I wondered. Okay, so even she says I wondered, so this might be a good place for a question. So, maybe our question could be like, why does Papa say that Cassie will understand the importance of the land one day? Fields ended and the Granger forest spanned both sides of the road, With long overhanging branches, a tall, emaciated-looking boy popped suddenly from the forest trail and swung a thin arm around Stacy. It was T.J. Avery. Okay, so that's part important because if you remember, that's question number 3. So if I go to the top, let's pick a new color for question number 3. Let's see. How about we go for, we use green? Oh yeah, green's the other highlighting, huh? Okay, let's choose, we haven't used yellow actually. So I'll use yellow to talk about TJ. Okay, so T.J. Avery. His younger brother, Claude, emerged a moment later, smiling weakly as if it pained him to do so. Neither boy had on shoes, and their Sunday clothing, patched and worn, hung loosely on their frail frames. The Avery family sharecropped on the Granger land. So I think this description is kind of showing us that maybe they are on the poorer side since they're sharecropping, so that means they don't own their own land. And then it's using that vocabulary word that he looks emaciated, which we know means like very, very thin. So I think that's important. Well, said TJ, jauntily swinging into step with Stacy. Here we go again, starting another school year. Yeah, sighed Stacy. Aw, man, don't look so down, TJ said cheerfully. Your mama's really one great teacher. I should know. He certainly should. He had failed Mama's class last year and was now returning for a second try. Okay, so that tells me about him too. I'm gonna highlight the yellow. Shoot, you can say that, exclaimed Stacy. You don't have to spend all day in a classroom with your mama. Look on the bright side, said TJ. Just think of the advantage you've got. You'll be learning all sorts of stuff for the rest of us. He smiled slyly, like what's on all them tests. Stacy thrust TJ's arms from his shoulders. If that's what you think, you don't know mama. Ain't no need getting mad, TJ replied, undaunted. Okay, so the fact that he says he's going to learn what's on the tests, that's kind of telling me about his character already, since it's saying, you know, he's expecting Stacy to know some answers on some tests, and he's a little excited about that. Okay, just an idea. He was quiet for a moment, then announced, I betcha I could give y'all an earful about that burning last night. Okay, so it looks like, that's where we're going to pause for today for the reading. So we met our reading goal. And if you look back on our schedule, the goal was to also complete one text-dependent question. So if you're taking the notes, it should be easy because remember that we have everything highlighted in orange for Cassie. So now it's how would you describe Cassie and why? Okay, so I would say at this point, from what we know about her, she's like rushing her little brother. She hates wearing her Sunday clothing. And let's see, what else did we highlight? So those are the basic ones. So I think for now, I'm going to choose the one where she says... So I'm going to choose the one where she says, I betcha mama's going to clean you up. You keep it up, I grumbled. Because I feel like one of the things that she's showing at this point of the story is that she's impatient. So I'm going to choose this one, and my answer is going to say, like, in the text, it says, and then I'm going to paste it, so it's plain. I just put without formatting. And then for now, I mean, I think it'd be good to include the page number. So that's coming from page 3, as you can see here. So I'm just going to include only the page number for now. And the period should come after. Okay, so I'm going to put like this means that she is trying to rush little man and thinks he is taking too long. So remember, I'm answering the question here, like how does this describe her? So I'm going to say like this shows that she is impatient because little man is small and is starting school for the first time, but she does not have patience. So if you follow along with me, that's actually your task for today, and that shows that we're all done. We have read 7 pages. We have completed 1 text-dependent question. So good job watching this if you did with me. I will try to complete this task with you for this whole week, since I told you like it's a new novel, so it's kind of harder to understand. And let me know if you have any other questions, or if you want to see more videos like this, then let me know, so that way I could make them for you. Okay, thank you.